Look at this waterfront in St. John's Harbor. To the millions of tourists who step off cruise ships here every year, the nation of Antigua and Barbuda presents exactly what they expect: a unified, seamless, idyllic Caribbean paradise. But internally, the two islands are locked in a quiet, bitter political war over the very concept of land ownership. The modern catalyst for this conflict arrived in 2017. Hurricane Irma made a direct hit on Barbuda, leveling nearly every structure. In the chaotic aftermath, the central government, which sits over in Antigua, moved to repeal a centuries-old law known as the Barbuda Land Act. The central government's motive was clear. By eliminating the act, they could force the sale of communally held Barbudan land to foreign developers, making way for sprawling luxury mega-resorts. Barbudans have fought this aggressively. For them, communal land is the absolute foundation of their autonomy. They fear that foreign privatization will permanently erase their distinct culture. Which raises a strange question. How did two islands sharing the same flag develop such contradictory systems? Why does one half of a nation strictly prohibit private land ownership, while the other half pushes aggressively to sell its coastlines to international real estate developers? To understand this modern rivalry, we have to look past the political treaties and examine the literal dirt and rock of the islands themselves. The divergent destinies of these two societies were decided millions of years before humans arrived. They are written directly into the bedrock. Antigua sits on an ancient volcanic base. Over millennia, decaying volcanic rock created deep, fertile soils. As we can see in this aerial shot, Barbuda is entirely different. It is a flat, dry limestone reef pushed above the waves, with a surface that barely holds any soil at all. When the British colonized the islands in the 1600s, this geology dictated their strategy. Antigua's rich volcanic earth and rolling hills made it perfectly suited for growing sugar, the most lucrative, water-intensive crop in the empire. To extract that agricultural wealth, the British imposed a highly regimented industrial plantation economy on Antigua. These stone sugar mills at Betty's Hope are remnants of the brutal system that relied entirely on the labor of enslaved Africans. Barbuda could not support a single sugarcane field. The powerful Codrington family leased the entire island from the crown, but instead of planting crops, they used it as a massive provisioning ground to feed their Antiguan sugar estates. Barbuda's primary outputs were livestock, timber, and food. Raising these required vast, open grazing spaces across the island's scrub brush, rather than tight, regimented crop rows. This meant the experience of the enslaved people on Barbuda took a separate path. Freed from the grueling seasons of cane harvesting, they faced less direct surveillance from overseers. To manage the livestock and survive the dry climate, they developed a semi-autonomous system of herding and foraging across the whole island. Basic geology forced the colonizers to establish two entirely different models of slavery: an industrial, high-surveillance nightmare on one island, and an isolated, resource-sharing survival community on the other. In 1834, the British Empire abolished slavery, but emancipation did not unite the islands. It accelerated their divide. On Antigua, the transition to freedom was harsh. The white planter elite already owned all the arable land, leaving the newly freed population with no choice but to return to the sugar fields for starvation wages. Decades of landlessness and crushing poverty eventually broke the system. In the early 20th century, Antiguan workers organized massive, violent labor strikes against the estates. Those strikes birthed a fiercely organized trade union movement. Leaders like their Cornwall Bird used the unions to consolidate power, eventually transforming their labor organization into absolute political control of the Antiguan government. Over on Barbuda, the Codrington family realized the island would never generate significant profit without slave labor, so they abandoned their lease. The Barbudans, left largely to themselves, completely rejected commercial agriculture. Instead, they established an unwritten, deeply respected communal system. Everyone owned the island equally. No individual could buy a plot of land, and no outsider could purchase an inch of the coast. This was the birth of the Barbuda Land Act. They shifted their farming and herding based on the unpredictable rainfall. If a drought hit, the community relied on shared wells and open grazing. They survived through intense communal cooperation rather than relying on wages or bosses. By the time the modern era arrived, emancipation had solidified a hierarchical, unionized Antiguan society, driven by wage labor, sitting right next to a flat, communal Barbudan society, driven by shared ecological survival. In 1981, Britain officially granted the islands full independence, but against the wishes of the Barbudans, the Crown forced them into a joint statehood with the vastly larger, politically dominant Antigua. Today, Antigua's economy is heavily dependent on foreign tourism, and politicians running the central government, like Prime Minister Gaston Browne, tend to view Barbuda's vast, untouched, communally owned beaches as wasted, unprofitable real estate. This dynamic highlights a concept political scientists call neo-settler colonialism. It happens when a central government uses neoliberal policies, like privatization, to assert control. As this scale shows, the joint parliament is structurally dominated by Antigua's much larger population. With enough votes, they can unilaterally repeal protections like the Barbuda Land Act without local consent. To Barbudans, the privatization of their coastline is an existential threat. Dismantling the communal system erases the specific ecological survival model and cultural identity that has defined their community since the 1700s. The legacy of colonialism is determined by how the land is exploited. Today, the modern nation is trapped in a loop where the former plantation island continues to try and extract value from the provisioning island. It proves that formal political independence cannot simply erase the deep structural divides written into the very bedrock.